Morning. So today's agenda includes working on this tractor. I should get a parts delivery slightly after noon, lunchtime. So we'll get our speed sensor, and I don't even remember what else it is that I'm waiting on, but stuff. Right now we're gonna wax this, try and get the cap put back on there. After my last video, if you haven't watched that, we had some wiring issues up here. Let me show you. So we had some wires that had gotten chewed on, and this hose, and some over here. And so we've got those all fixed up. All of our lights and things work. That's why our rear work lights on the tractor were not working, but we got that fixed up. So anyway, I got a couple of comments, or a lot of comments actually, on that video about birds and mice and everything and how they're getting in here. Well, I don't think it was mice, and here's why. I didn't see any signs of mice. I didn't see any mouse droppings, anything like that. And I know they can get up here. I'm sure they can, but I don't think that they did. I really think it was birds. They come in this opening where this wiper is here, and then they had a nest, two nests actually, one on each side, and that's where all these wires were chewed. So I'm pretty sure it was the bird that actually chewed through the wires and not mice. Anyway, we are going to put this stuff all back together. I'm going to try and wrap some of these wires up a little bit better with maybe some rubber or something to protect them from these metal pieces here. And then I was going to see about getting some kind of chicken wire, was my thought, or some kind of mesh metal to put in there and cover that opening up. Although somebody in one of their comments said that John Deere makes a piece to cover that, and I might look up and see if I can find that part number, because if it's designed for it and easier, that would just be easier, and we'll start there. But there's also one on the front for that wiper opening, so we should probably try and plug that one up as well. Okay, we'll let that dry. Look what I found. A little piece of chicken wire that I can cut and patch them holes. Trimming it to fit. I cut it around that wiper arm so it covers up the hole. This should work. Something like that. All I gotta do is figure out how to hold it in place, and then probably should run the wiper arm and see how far it moves and whether it's gonna hit this. I can always trim it back another square. It'll still be a pretty small hole. I don't think the birds will get in there. But yeah, that ought to do the trick. So I'm thinking I'm just gonna take a caulk gun and glob some caulk in these corners and let that dry. It ought to hold that in place, and then I don't have to worry about screwing it to the plastic or anything permanent. Yeah, we're gonna do that. There. I'll go do one in the front. Well, the same thing should work here, but this one is a little bit tighter fit because of this front piece curving up so much. But yeah, we can make that work. Well, that head ought to work. And I got one in the front up here. That one's got a little bigger hole around the wiper arm, but it's just kind of the way it sets in there. So I ought to keep the birds out. And we didn't have any up in that one anyway. So, okay, this is almost dry. However, it is 10 o'clock, and I've got a seed truck coming at 10 o'clock to bring me some beans. So we got to go down there and get him unloaded. Well, he's not here yet, but I want to move the seed tender because all my beans are going to go along this wall. There he is, trying to cut my driveway. Yeah, you'll make it, bud. You'll be just fine. Some of these guys come in here with these trucks that the wheelbase is about 1.5 miles long, and they can't make the corner very good, but that one looks reasonable. Okay, I just got a full truckload of one variety. That's a lot. What do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 3 is 18, 19 boxes. Cool. Well, it's easy when it's one truckload of a whole variety, or all one variety. He's going back, getting me another load, and we'll be back here this afternoon, hopefully with a whole nother variety. Okay, now let's see if our hood shines. hood cap, whatever you call this thing. Not bad. It feels nice. This Meguiar's wax leaves a lot nicer feel than the liquid turtle wax does. Well, it is like 16, 17 years old and a little scuffed and a little faded, but she looks okay. All right, before we throw that back up here, I want to try and protect some of these wires a little bit. So I've got this old chunk of hose, and we're just gonna cut a piece of it off, split it, wrap it around these wires. There was, you can see here, there was some foam stuff they had wrapped around it, but it's pretty well gone, either chewed off or just deteriorated. So we'll put this in place of it. Kind of like that. That ought to work. Do one over here. Pretty sure we're ready for that cap to go back up there. We might need some help getting it up there. Cool. Well, that went better than I expected it to. So there's 2 screws there in the front and 2 in the back to hold that down, and then I've got this piece that goes across. There's normally just regular bolts in here, but I've made this bracket to mount GPS receiver up there because that's how you do it on these tractors. Actually, I think there is a way to put one on the front. After I had that cap off there, it looked like it was a spot for it, or at least threads in the cap to do it, but that's the easy way to do it. And then there's a bunch of little screws that go all the way around underneath, including the tricky one to find, which is right there. It was hidden by the warning light, so now that that's done, we can put our lights back up there, housings, and we'll have the cap all done. Oh, I've also had a couple of comments about these rear corner posts being off-colored, clearly, in the pieces on the bottom of the cab. This tractor, it's a 2004 model. It was one of the first ones to start using a fair amount of plastic components, especially on the exterior. The fenders are still metal. The hood is a composite. It's plastic, but it's painted plastic. These pieces on the back are colored plastic, where they tried to color match, and when it was new it did, but they have faded different. The UV light has affected them differently, and so it's become discolored as it's aged, and that's why those pieces are they're just different. They're off. They're not John Deere green, because yeah, that's why. So it looks kind of crappy, but it is what it is, so we aren't gonna worry about it too much. So I was double checking to make sure all of my cab lights still worked, and I noticed that this one is out. So we got to take that apart and fix it. But all the flashers work, and the work lights also work. That's good. That seems weird that that one is on like that, and this side is not. Something else to figure out. All right, so I've had to do a little bit of diagnostics with our rear tail lights here, and look, on some dirt. So this power wire harness here, the tail light wire has no power to it. So even if this bulb is good, which I am pretty sure that it is, in fact I know it is because I swapped it with the other side, it's not getting the power signal. So that is a problem. But I don't know where that wire harness goes. It comes up in here, and then it goes down and goes through there into the sidewall, but that's under the corner post, and I can't really get to it. And the other side works, so it's not a fuse or something like that. It's got to be a wire, broken wire, or a connection or something, and I don't know if I'm going to take the time to trace it and find it, because it's just a taillight, and I don't care that much. However, I did make an interesting discovery on how cheap John Deere is sometimes. So you see this? See this plug here? See how there are 4 wires? Or four. Here, I'll show you up here. There are 4 wires coming into that plug. We got a blue, a white, a gray, and a black. Black is our ground, okay? So the black wire comes out of this plug, and it goes to this light, and it comes out of that light, and it goes to this light, and it grounds both of them. And then we have a green wire. That green wire is our tail light. That's the bottom. That's the tail light. It's the one that's not getting power that should be. And then we have a gray wire. The gray wire is for your turn signal. Wait a minute. Nope, I'm backwards here. Yeah, so this is how the light sits. So this one is the bottom. So the gray wire is the taillight one that should be getting a signal and isn't. The green wire is the turn signal, and it works. This light comes on for the turn signal. But you see this one right here? You see this little blue wire? And you see this one right here? That is not a broken wire. Those are shrink cap, shrink tube that they put on there to seal those wires off. Do you know if they would have connected those two wires, we would have brake lights? Like, it's a dual filament bulb. All that needs to happen is for those to connect it. And I know this because I tested it up here. And when you push the brakes, one of those has power to it. Like, the brake wire signal is right there. It boggles my mind. It had to cost more to pay somebody to put that heat shrink on the end of that wire and fold it off than it would have to just connected it in the first place. It boggles my mind. And I would connect it and make it have brake lights. However, the other side, the socket is different. It doesn't have that third wire coming out of it, and it doesn't have the bulb is right. Let's see. The bulb is correct. However, it doesn't have the pin in the bottom on the other side that it needs to connect to the double-sided, double filament bulb. Blows my mind why they wouldn't just put the brake lights on there. I don't understand. I am, however, almost 100% sure that if you ordered this tractor in Europe, those brakes would work. And that's why all the components and everything are there, because they make the same tractor, they send it to Europe, they got to have brakes on it, brake lights on it, so it works. But, like, why would you not make it work here too? I don't understand. Well, anyway, it is what it is at this point on what these wire harnesses are and lights, so we're going to put it back together. I strongly considered connecting those wires to give me brake lights on this one, but it would be very difficult to do on the other one without buying a new wire harness or at least a light socket. So I'm going to pass on doing that. We're just going to put it back together. If this tractor was something that saw a lot of road time or more use than 100 hours a year, most of which is sitting inside a irrigation field, then I might consider it. But yeah, it isn't that big of a deal. So anyway, we're going to work on that, but it's lunchtime. I'm going home to get something to eat. We'll come back and work on this some more this afternoon. I think we're going to turn this tractor around, put it on that side of the shop, and try and work on getting this rear tire rolled out or removed or something so that we've got access to get in there for our transmission sensor, which hopefully will be here by the time we get back. Hey guys. They posted the National Corn Growers Contest results today. I saw them when I was home for lunch. I'm super excited to show them to you. I should do a screen capture thing here, but I'm just going to film it. So, yeah. So, before we get to my results, check this out. So, this is Michigan, conventional, non-irrigated, not my category. Top 4 places, look at that. All Golden Harvest. That's awesome. We got a bunch more Golden Harvest peppered in through here. Way cool. There are pages of Michigan results. They get a lot of entries. Non-irrigated, no-till irrigated, strip-till irrigated, conventional irrigated. This is our category right there. 12, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We finished 12th, and look at the yield. 273.6122. That is really good. And if you look, it's only 22 bushels to be in the top 3. Now this guy here, this Don Stahl, that's your national winner at 476 bushels per acre. National winner. That's awesome. Congratulations to him. He always wins Michigan. There's usually some other guys that win the country, but good for him. Same category that I was in, unfortunately, but is what it is. But yeah, look at that. We got a 12th place finish. And our other entry is down here on the bottom of the page. I didn't count it out, but at 252.27. And yeah, we were in the top half, I would say. We did awesome. Like, I'm so thrilled by that. All right, we got to find Ohio. All right, here's Ohio. We didn't do quite so good in Ohio. But first, before we get into that, do you think that's the guy's real name? Andrew James Bond? And do you think that he uses his middle name all the time just because it's James? I mean, sure, I would too, probably. Ohio doesn't have as many entries, and we were in the non-irrigated side, and you guys know how dry we were here this year. So winter non-irrigated conventional was at 320 in this. We were kind of towards the bottom. We were third from the bottom, but we still broke 200. So we did okay. It is what it is there. If you look, though, if you come down to the Ohio irrigated conventional, there's not nearly as many entries. This is why I need an irrigated field in Ohio, but I don't have one. But check it out. Winter was at 280 bushels. We would have finished 4th place in Ohio if that irrigated field was 3 miles south of where it actually is. But yeah, not too bad. We did well. I'm thrilled with that Michigan result. So it appears that I was the only Golden Harvest entry in the entire state of Ohio. However, see this one right here, the no-till non-irrigated winter, number 1, that's an NK number. That directly crosses to one of my hybrids. I think it's my 110 10L16. I'd have to double check that, but I think that's right. So that's a good thing too. When the NK stuff wins, it's good for me because generally they're the same hybrid as something I sell. And that was, oh yeah, there's another NK one right there. Same variety. That's conventional irrigated. And yeah. I'm just super impressed by the Golden Harvest's performance in these trials. Like, top 4 places in the conventional non-irrigated in Michigan, but then you look and they're still peppered through here, ranking really high. And look how many DeKalb entries there are. I mean, this whole page is almost all DeKalb. There's a Golden Harvest. There's an Enogen. Enogen, again, similar genetics or some of the same genetics as the other stuff that I'm selling. And yeah, there are pages of them. And you get to the bottom and they're all DeKalb. A couple Pioneers. Yeah, that's awesome. They did really well. And then you look at the no-till non-irrigated. There's a Golden Harvest. There's a Golden Harvest. Where was the other one? Oh, right here. Strip, minimum mulch, ridge-till non-irrigated. Got 2 of the top 3 in that category. Just did a really phenomenal job. And then in that irrigated, where there are actually Golden Harvest entries here, you know, yeah, Pioneer got the top one too, but then you got an Enogen. There's a Golden Harvest, Golden Harvest, Golden Harvest, Golden Harvest, Golden Harvest, and then you look down here and DeKalb. Yeah. Statistics will tell you the more entries you have, the better chance you have of doing well. I guess it also tells you the more entries you have, the better chance you have of being on the bottom as well. So it's what's going to happen, but I will give the big seed companies credit. They do a pretty good job of getting people to enter stuff into the Corn Growers Contest, and it gives them a lot of publicity for doing so. That's why I've been trying to do a little bit more of that ourselves. There's a really good Golden Harvest dealer up on the west side of Michigan that does a great job of getting people in, and I think it's our state. The agronomists and a lot of people in the state have really been pushing it. So that's good. We'll try and do it again next year. Hopefully we can improve on our yields a little bit. Oh, yeah. We're not going to have any irrigated corn next year. We're not going to be able to improve on our yields. Bummer. Well, we'll have to do some figuring and see. Maybe we can still put a couple of dry land entries in and everything. But it's a fun thing to do. I didn't really win anything other than a little bit of pride because I finished 12th in the same category as the National Corn Growers Contest winner. Yeah, I'm pretty happy about that. Anyway, we're going to get back to putting all of this stuff back together. I think I'm going to close the doors and get my hose and clean this stuff up a little bit so we can get some of that dirt out of there. And I suppose I should try and clean some of that out from in there. But I'm going to leave this open because this is the wire harness we got to plug in when we get our lights to go up here. And, oh, we should go out and see if all my parts came. Not yet. Come back later. Well, there's that. What's next? I think we need to get it spun around and over where our hoist can work so we can work on that tire. I think I can do it without going outside. We're sure gonna try. Up over the top. It'll be a little tight here. Don't hit our posts. Oh yeah, we're good. We're good. We're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Right there. Okay. Sweet. Just not stick a fork through our door. Made it. Made it. We have got to get somewhere way up in there, and I've decided that the only real way to even attempt to do this is to get this tire somewhat out of the way so we can get in there and then see what else we got to take apart to do it. So we're going to start with trying to roll it out, meaning, so these axles are on this axle shaft, and there's these threads on here. There's a wedge that kind of locks it in place, but we can loosen these bolts up, the tight ones, and then use these bolts here, our pusher bolts, that kind of split that wedge apart, which lets it loose, and then you can turn this bolt and it'll actually roll itself out to change the spacing of the tires, the width of it. So we can do that, roll it all the way out to the end of the axle there. We'll see if that gives us enough room. If it does, great. If not, at least then we can get our overhead hoist over here, stick a strap through the tire, which will be out past the fender then, and we can use that to support the tire, and then we'll just pop it off of there and get it out of the way completely. First thing we got to do is get the weight off of it. So, like that, after my stellar job of filming this for you. Sorry. But basically, we just loosen up the bolts that were tight and then push in on the bolts that were not, which draws this wedge out and separates it, and then you can see the gear in there, and then you turn this bolt and it moves that gear on this axle, which moves the whole entire tire out like that. So we'll leave it there, and I can get in here relatively well. Problem is we found a bunch of dirt and not any sensors, so I don't know if it's back in there somewhere or down in there somewhere. Tried cleaning stuff up a little bit and get up in there, but I don't really see any sensors. The only one I've actually found is that one, and that's on the bottom. I'm pretty sure they told me it was on the top, so yeah. Yeah. I might actually have to get the power washer in there and try and clean up some of in there, just so I can see a little bit better, because it's all coated in a thick layer of oil and dirt. Somebody in one of my comments said something about this cab would actually tilt, so I looked, and they are correct. There is a hinge right there by the mounting brackets on the front and the back on this side of the tractor right there, but there is no pin in it, so we'd have to put a bolt in for it to pivot on and then see what all we would have to take apart. I know that bolt, at least the 4 mounting bolts or something along those lines, and then the whole cab may just tilt out, which would give us plenty of room to work under there. I don't have the part yet, but they sent me the invoice, which means I have the part number. So I went to go and look at parts diagram here, and it is this number 21, which goes right there. So that tells me where on the transmission that it is. This is the direction of travel is that way, so that's towards the front. This is the filter housing underneath, so that tells me kind of where we're at. So yeah, we're looking in the right area, but it's got to be in behind that fuel tank. She's going to be a hard one to get to. Yeah, it's got to be down there somewhere. I can't. We're gonna have to clean that up. I don't know. We might have to tip the cab or something, because I can't see anything down in there. I believe I have found it, at least with my fingers. I can get the phone picture of it. Somewhere in there. I was trying to pick some dirt out. Oh, right there. It's right there. It's that sensor right there. See the screw on it and the wire harness coming out the top? Yeah, that's it. So, now, can we clean that up and manage to get that screw out that holds it in and get the new one in there without losing anything or knocking any dirt into the hole? Right. Gonna have to put that one on hold because we gotta go unload a seed truck. Well, we got another full truckload, not quite a full truckload, 15 boxes of whole all one variety. Sweet. Well, that takes up a little space in here, those 2 rows. That's okay. I've got another truckload of beans coming tomorrow from a different location, so that's good. I get an early delivery bonus for taking them before the end of December or something like that. It's fairly substantial, like 75 cents a unit, something like that. So when you start taking a couple thousand units, it adds up. It's worth it. So I asked my John Deere tech how difficult it is to tilt the cab on this tractor, and he says it takes a couple hours. And I said, oh, okay, more difficult than I thought then, because I thought I could take these 4 bolts out, or maybe 6 bolts, 2 here and 1 on the front, and the same on the other side. Throw some bolts in these hinges down in there, and then use my overhead hoist to tip it. And he said it takes a couple hours. I was like, oh, okay. So apparently John Deere makes a cab tilt tool that's specifically for that. I don't have one of those, so we aren't going to worry about it, but I'm going to try it. We're going to see what happens. We do need to move this tire out, though. He says you have to take the rear tires off. I don't think I need to take it off. I think I just need to move it out so we get some room for it to tip, right? That's how this side would work. We don't have to go far. We just need to get a little room to get in there. So, yeah, so I jacked up the other side of the rear end here, and we're gonna roll this tire out on the axle shaft, and then we're gonna pull some bolts, and we're gonna see if we can't tip a cab. I don't know. Find out. I can show you how this works though. So we got these 2 bolts here we need to loosen. Okay, and then there are 3 bolts on the bottom. This one, and this one. This one here has a nut on the back, kind of a keeper that it doesn't come out. You just go to there. Come on. Hold on. Okay, and then we loosened up the other 2. Now we go the other way and we tighten these ones. I'm just gonna do a little bit at a time on them. Kind of keep them easy. And eventually, that wedge will pop. Maybe now. There it popped. And you can see it moving out. Okay, and now you can see that gear behind there. I gotta get my ratchet. And maybe we might have to let it the other side down so it doesn't spin on me. But we just need to turn that. It's moving, but it's hard to do one-handed. There. Until we get it all the way out. Now we got some room that cab can tip a little ways without hitting the tire. Plus it makes it easier to get in there to get to my hinges. Well, we're 10 minutes in. I've gotten those 2 bolts out, or at least loose. And I got this one up front here. I got the nut off. And that one you got to pull the floor mat up to get to the inside to get to the head of it to keep it from spinning. Heck, we're halfway there already. Let's try this side. That one was easy. All right, well, the cab is loose. I think if I put my hoist on there and lift, it should go. I need to wiggle it to get this bolt all the way through and get a nut on it. This one come out. 2 hours. Okay, so I've got that hoist anchored to the that bracket that I've got on the top, because that big bolt that goes down, that goes into the subframe of the roof there. It's not just into the plastic on top, so I think it'll be okay. And I wiggled it enough to get my bolts in. Look at that. Look at it. Oh, it's beautiful. Nice and slow. Just keep checking everything. We're almost maxed out. We don't have too much lift left, so we can't go too far here, but it slides with it as it goes because it's tipping it. It's not lifting. So yeah, we'll get some blocks and put in there, but that's going to get us what we need to be able to get into that sensor. We'll go just a little bit more here. Make sure everything's okay on this side. We're not hitting nothing. Looks okay to me. Still on our bolt. This bolt here is still in. There, it'll come out. Maybe. Well, it's a little whopper jawed. We got her where we need it. Sweet, a couple hours. Awesome. Well, step one is cleaning. But right there is our sensor. It's in there. Right there's our sensor. Much easier to get to now. So now I'm trying to figure out what do I do about all this nastiness in here. Do I get the power washer and try and clean it? Or do I say forget that and clean up what I need to with the can of brake cleaner, put it back together? Just kind of what I'm leaning towards. Our parts made it. Yep, and a whole bunch of chafer louvers. Well, there's our sensor, and here's our little piece of hose for the fuel line that apparently they have changed to just a straight rubber hose, because that ain't what I was expecting, but whatever, it'll work. All right, since we've got our new one, we can take the old one out and change it, and yeah, we can do that. Okay, I've gotten it cleaned up semi well right around it, and the wire harness is off. There's a little Allen-headed screw that holds that in there, so we got to get that out. This one don't even come with green paint, or it's just a magnetic speed sensor. Senses the gears in the transmission. I have no idea if that's what's going to fix our problem or not, but it was the relatively cheap place to start, so let's go get this one put in. New sensor. Check. Okay, we're ready to put the cab back on. That was a lot faster than I thought. Now, everything should fall right into place, but I'm not 100% sure of that, so we gotta try and make sure that everything's in the right spot and go slow. Yeah, like that. There. That should help. Okay, let's double check everything else. That side's coming together, and this side's still just on that pivot because it doesn't have anywhere to go. Cool. Make sure we're not pinching anything. Not really much to pinch with that stand there. It's just, yeah, a little small contact area. I think we're good here. Touchdown. If we can get our bolts in, we'll bolt it back together, and then we're done with that. Assuming, of course, that actually fixed our problem, and, you know, that's a, who knows. We'll see. If that didn't do it, we might have to have the dealer come out and actually tell me what's wrong with it. But I gave them the codes. They told me that was what's wrong, so we'll see. All of the bolts are back in, and I got my hinge bolts out. All we need to do is tighten them up, and our cab is secured back in place. Cab's back on. Suppose we can roll the tires in now, but before we do that, well, I guess that one's not too hard to get to anyway, but let's check our air pressures while we can get in there. Basically, we should have 16 all the way around. 14.0, we need a little bit. This is the tractor that we had to give a little PSA on tire inflation pressures on last year because somebody had the fronts at like 32 or something along those lines. And the book says 12, but it says to increase by 4 if you're running a loader. So that would be 16. And the rears are 16. 14. So we're going to pull a little bit of air in these tires. Hey, Brock, look what I got. The other day when I made him check the combine air tires, I gave him the chuck that doesn't have the clip. So he had to hold it for all of those. He's like, you got to have one of these that latches on, or you should have one. And I'm like, oh, I probably do. I just didn't give it to you. Not intentionally. I rarely use this one, but it does work pretty good, I think. Well, look at that. 16. Okay, well, I didn't roll these tires back in. We'll get to that maybe tomorrow. But I'm gonna go home because it's 5:30 and it's time for me to go home. That was a big deal getting that speed sensor done and lifting the cab like that. I'm surprised we got all that done today, so yeah, that's good. Tomorrow we'll keep working on this a little bit, roll them tires back in, see what else we can find to do to it. I think it'll be Thursday before I get any more parts unless I go to Jonesville and actually pick them up. They're only coming twice a week now with their parts drop through the winter here until we get back into the spring and the busy season. But I think I'm going to spend half the day doing seed stuff tomorrow, so I'll probably do that in the morning, and then we'll come back here in the afternoon and keep working on this. If nothing else, we can do some more cleaning, wash the windows. We got to grease the loader and the front axle and a few things like that. So, and I guess we can run it and see if we can see if our air codes go away or not. But we'll see. So anyway, I'm going home. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for watching. Have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow. If you have any questions and comments, leave them down below. And as always, if you haven't already, hit that like button for me, please, and subscribe to the channel, please. Thank you. Bye. Oh, I know, one more thing. So I promised this in the last video to somebody in the comments, and then I forgot. But I wanted to update you on my YouTube situation, and I am happy to announce that YouTube has deposited money from my November earnings into my AdSense account. I haven't got it yet, but it's close. That usually comes towards the end of the month for the previous month. So like November stuff I'll get paid for later in December here. But they've deposited it in my account outside of YouTube, which makes me think that it's actually going to happen. And when they adjusted stuff for November, when I was afraid that they were going to completely remove it like they had for October and half of September, they actually adjusted some stuff up. So like that last time I talked about this and I shared some screenshot stuff with you, it was like $850 or something that I had made in November, which isn't bad, but it was down from what I had been doing in the summer. They moved it back up fairly substantially. So I'm pretty happy with that right now. I still missed out on October, all of October and half of September, which bites, and I don't know if they're trying to make up for that or what. They still have not admitted that they did anything wrong or there was any problems. But if I actually get this, we'll move on and we'll call it good and just hope that it doesn't happen again. So anyway, that's what happened with YouTube. Thanks for watching.